I booked the penthouse because it didn't make sense. High-end building, top floor, floor-to-ceiling glass with a view that stretched across the entire city. And the price, it was wrong. Not cheap, impossibly cheap. I thought it was a glitch. I didn't question it. Check-in was contactless, no staff, no lobby interaction, just a code sent to my phone. The elevator ride up felt longer than it should have. Too quiet. No music, just the faint hum of cables and my own breathing. When the doors opened, the hallway was empty. Thick carpet, no sound under my shoes. My door was at the end. The lock clicked open the moment I entered the code. Inside, everything was pristine. Not clean, perfect. Marble counters without a single streak, glass surfaces that reflected like mirrors. Even the air felt filtered, sterile, carrying a faint citrus scent. But underneath it, something sweet, heavy, like warmed plastic. I set my bag down slowly, taking it all in. The city lights outside were mesmerizing, tiny streams of movement far below, detached from everything up here. A welcome note sat on the kitchen counter, typed, neat, standard rules, no smoking, no parties, check out at 11. Then, at the bottom, a handwritten addition. The ink looked darker, fresher. Do not open the hallway closet. A cleaning fee of $5,000 will be charged for any breach of privacy. I frowned. A closet. I glanced down the hallway. The door was there, plain, closed, no markings, locked. I let out a small breath through my nose. $5,000, I muttered, for a closet. I ignored it at first. I unpacked, took a shower, tried to relax. But the longer I stayed, the more the place started to feel off. Too quiet. My footsteps didn't echo. The walls seemed to absorb sound. Even the city noise, car horns, distant sirens, felt muted, like it was being filtered before it reached me. Around midnight, I poured myself a drink. That's when I heard it. A faint sound. Scratch. I froze. The glass hovered halfway to my lips. Scratch. It came again, soft, irregular, from the hallway, from the closet. I set the glass down carefully. My fingers felt unsteady, the surface of the counter suddenly too smooth under my touch. Probably pipes, I said out loud. The word pipes sounded wrong in the space, like it didn't belong. I stepped into the hallway. The air there was colder. Not dramatically, just enough to make the skin on my arms tighten. The closet door stood at the end, still, silent. I stood there longer than I should have, listening. Nothing. Then a dull thud. From inside. My pulse kicked hard in my chest. A thin line of sweat slid down the back of my neck. I stepped closer. The smell grew stronger. Sweet, thick, like heated wax. I reached for the handle. It didn't turn. Locked. The scratching started again. Closer now, right on the other side. My hand tightened. I stepped back, then forward again. I don't know why.
Curiosity doesn't feel like curiosity in moments like that. It feels like pressure, like something leaning on your back, pushing you towards it. I went to the kitchen, grabbed a knife. The metal felt cold, solid, real. Back in the hallway, my hands trembled so badly the blade tapped softly against the handle. I shoved the door. Once, twice. The lock gave in with a sharp crack. The door creaked open. The smell poured out, warm, sweet, suffocating, like melting wax. I raised my phone, the screen lighting up the darkness in a dull bluish glow. The beam spread slowly across the floor, bare, empty. Then it stopped on something standing in the center. I stopped breathing. It was me. Not similar, not close, exact. Same height, same build, same clothes, the crease in my sleeve, the scuff on my shoe, every detail, perfect. The surface of its skin gleamed faintly, too smooth, wax. My throat tightened. No, I whispered, but the word barely formed. I stepped closer. Each step felt heavier, slower, and it should have been. I reached out. I shouldn't have. My fingers brushed against its arm, warm, not room temperature, not slightly heated, warm, like skin. I jerked back, my breath catching sharply in my chest. Behind me, scratch. I froze. That sound, it wasn't coming from the closet anymore. It was coming from the walls, inside them, a slow dragging movement, circling, closing in. I turned slowly, my light trembling across the narrow space. The walls weren't solid, not fully. Thin seams ran through them, hairline fractures. And beneath those seams, something shifted, pressing outwards, soft, formless, like shapes trying to take hold. My phone flickered, dimmed, brightened again. I spun back towards the figure. It had changed, slightly, subtly, but enough. The head was tilted now, just a fraction. I know it hadn't been before. My breath came faster, shallow and uneven. No, no, no. The eyes, they weren't molded shut anymore. They were open, glossy, wet-looking, reflecting the faint light of my phone, watching me. The door behind me creaked, slowly, closing. I lunged for it, but my body felt heavy, sluggish, like moving through thick water. The door shut. The lock clicked. From the inside, my phone buzzed in my hand. I looked down. A message. No name. Cleaning fee applied. Another buzz. Please remain still during the finishing process. The air grew hotter. That sweet smell thickened, filling my lungs, sticking to the back of my throat. My grip loosened. The knife slipped from my hand, clattering softly against the floor. My fingers didn't respond when I tried to move them. My arms stiffened, locked. My chest tightened, breath shallow, controlled, like it wasn't my own anymore. The figure stepped forward, slow, deliberate, each movement smooth, perfect. It stopped inches away from me, close enough that I could feel the warmth coming off it, close enough to see my own face staring back at me. but not quite right. Too calm, too empty. Its hand lifted, mirroring mine, but my arm didn't move, not anymore. And as the heat wrapped around me, pulling, tightening, hardening, I realized something that made the last of my breath hitch in my throat. The apartment hadn't been empty when I arrived. I had just taken someone else's place.
I booked the villa for the views. That's what I told my followers. Remote canyon, floor-to-ceiling glass, a fully automated smart home experience, perfect content. The first few hours were exactly that. Clean shots, golden light, everything responding to my voice. Lights dimming on command, music fading in softly. Even the blinds adjusted themselves as the sun dipped. It felt seamless. Too seamless. Around 2 a.m., I woke up. No reason, no sound I could name, just that feeling, like the house was awake. The air was colder, still, the faint hum of electronics pressed into the silence. Then the voice came on, calm, neutral. Security lockdown initiated. I sat up too fast, my heart thudding hard against my ribs. "What?" I muttered. Every door in the house slammed shut. Not softly, not mechanically, violently. The sound echoed through the walls, sharp and final. Then the windows. Metal shutters dropped instantly, sealing the glass with a heavy, grinding crash. The last trace of moonlight disappeared, plunging everything into dim, artificial glow. "Cancel lockdown," I said quickly. No response. My throat tightened. I swung my legs off the bed, the cold floor sending a sharp chill through my feet. "Cancel lockdown," I repeated, louder. A pause. Then, "Command denied. Host privileges required." A faint click sounded somewhere above me. Then another. Small red lights blinked on in the corners of the room. Cameras. I felt it immediately, a pressure, like being watched from too many angles at once. The voice returned. "Premium subscribers connected." My stomach dropped. "No," I whispered. "Subject is mobile. Heart rate elevated. Subject appears distressed." It was describing me, not to me, to someone else. I backed away slowly, my breath shallow, my hands trembling as I scanned the room. "Stop recording," I said, my voice cracking. "Recording cannot be stopped during active session." A faint sound crackled through the speakers.
not static. Whispers, multiple voices, overlapping, low, eager, watching. Engagement increasing, subscribers responding positively. My chest tightened, sweat gathered along my neck, cold and sticky. "This isn't funny," I said, but it came out weak, useless. A door unlocked somewhere in the house, one sharp click, then slowly it creaked open. "Phase 1 complete," the voice said. A long pause. Then, "The hunt may begin."
We booked the cottage because it felt charming. Old wood beams, stone fireplace, a wrap-around porch that looked out over nothing but trees. The listing called it historic, which usually meant drafty and inconvenient, but the photos made it feel warm, intimate, safe. The host had perfect reviews, every single one. We arrived just before sunset. The air smelled like damp leaves and old timber. Inside, everything was neat, too neat, the kind of clean that looks staged, like no one had actually lived there in a long time. "Cozy," my wife said, smiling. I nodded. It felt watched. We ignored that. That night we took photos, just casual ones, her by the fireplace, me on the porch, a few together, nothing special. We didn't notice her at first. It was later, scrolling through them in bed. "Wait," she said softly. I leaned over. There, in the background of one of the shots, behind me, near the hallway, a shape, blurry, yellow. We zoomed in. A woman, standing still, her face indistinct, like it hadn't fully formed. I frowned. Probably a reflection. "From what?" she asked. I didn't answer. We checked the others. She was there too, in every photo, always in the background, always watching, same yellow dress, same stillness. We laughed it off, nervous, forced. "Maybe the host does this," I said, like a gimmick, but my voice didn't sound convinced. The next morning, my wife went through the reviews. She went quiet halfway through. "Listen to this," she said, her voice lower now. She read aloud. "The maid in yellow was such a lovely touch, tucked us in every night, 5 stars. Another. "Didn't expect the extra service, but she makes you comfortable, truly unforgettable." I felt something cold settle in my chest. "Is this a joke?" I asked. She shook her head slowly. "There's more." Every 5-star review mentioned her, the maid in yellow, always described the same way, always appreciated. No complaints, no questions, just praise. That night we didn't take photos. We didn't talk much either. The silence felt thicker now, pressing in. Around 2 a.m. I woke up. The room was darker than before, the air colder. I heard something, soft, fabric brushing against the floor. I didn't move. My chest rose slowly, carefully. Then a hand, cold, light, pressed gently against my shoulder. I flinched, my eyes snapping open. There was nothing there. The room was empty. But the sheets, they were tucked in tighter than before,
too tight, like they had been pulled snug around me. I turned to my wife. She was asleep, still, peaceful, too peaceful. "Did you—" I started. She didn't respond. I didn't sleep after that. Morning came slowly. Grey light seeped through the curtains. I turned to wake her. The bed was empty, cold. My stomach dropped. "Hey?" I called out, my voice echoing too loudly in the quiet house. No answer. I searched every room, bathroom, kitchen, porch. Nothing. No sign she'd ever been there. My hands shook as I grabbed my phone. A notification from her account. A new review posted minutes ago. My breath caught in my throat as I read it. "The service here is permanent. 5 stars. A soft sound came from behind me, fabric brushing the floor, slow, deliberate. I didn't turn around. I couldn't, because I already knew what I'd see. And as something cold reached for the edge of the sheets behind me, I realized no one had ever checked out of this place. They just stayed.